And I think we are live right now. If Anthony's back, hopefully you've just heard him creaking his door there.
Yeah,
he's back. And I think we are live. So let me introduce you. We have Zach, who's here. We have Sleeping Warrior, and we have Nathan Oakley.
hello.
And we're going to be talking about looming.
Talking about slightly looming, non-standard refraction hyena holograms.
What are they?
Things that should not be there if you have a reification fallacy disorder and think that you live on a sphere that is blocking something that you can actually see. The explanation being that it is a slightly looming, non-standard refraction hyena hologram of whatever it is you're looking at, which isn't really there.
That's a lot of word salad for people that don't know what what all this is about.
Yeah, it is a lot of word salad, but that's what the explanation is required. If you have a picture like of Morgold Lighthouse, well, that if you're on a ball, if you've got that reification fallacy disorder, has to be explained because it's geometrically not possible to see. There is a wall of Earth curve blocking your view if you believe you live on a sphere. Well, you don't. That's the first problem with that. The second problem being that you do actually see it. It is actually there. So it needs some explanation. So it has to be loomed up from behind the Earth curve that's blocking your view of it to bring it back into sight. That's what looming is, in essence. Something that is not there if you believe you live on a sphere, but is clearly there because you got a bloody photograph of it.
So I think, yeah, we have sort of three stages of this. When you take an image, you can see three, maybe four different stages of things. So on really crisp, clear days, you can just see very, very far. And the Globers will say that that is looming, correct? And it happens everywhere. So at some point throughout the whole of history, somebody's taken an image of something in a location, and they've seen perhaps twice as far as they were able to, according to the globe math. So in their model, that is being loomed up. You are seeing a hologram. Is that right, Nathan?
Yeah, it's in essence not there. You can't actually see it because, as I say, it's geometrically blocked by Earth curve if you have a reification fallacy disorder and think you live on a model. Well, if you live on that model has a dictated circumference and radius, and it would dictate how much you should or shouldn't see of certain objects in the distance. Now, as flat earthers, we all know you stick your camera out there and you should see less than you do. Now, that in itself is an incorrect description because we just see stuff that doesn't require explanation. But in order to turn just seeing something into a phenomena, it becomes a slightly looming non-standard refraction hyena hologram of a lighthouse, a boat, whatever it is that's not supposed to be there.
Yeah, I just want to present a video. You might have seen this. Zach, did you see this video by Red Pill Philosophy?
I don't believe so, no.
Okie dokie, then you're going to enjoy this then.
I'll give it a bigger build-up. Absolutely massive shout out to Red Pill Philosophy. This was a superb video. I think Flat Earth Perth also mirrored it. But if you haven't seen this, go and check it out in the audience. Hopefully someone from this show will spam it in the link, not me.
Yeah.
They must have unsubbed me from him because I haven't got a video. I haven't seen a video put out from him in a while. I'm going to have to go back through and check some of my subs.
Yeah, that makes sense.
What will you do for gender equality content if you're not subscribed to Red Pill?
Although, to be fair, he has been sticking more to the flat earth recently, and I think all his hard work's paid off by the observation that he caught yesterday. It was absolutely sensational. And throughout the whole year, he's been going for the past 3 months, and he's struggled to get the optimum weather conditions to see very far. He's always had this inferior mirage going off and compression. Every time he's put a video out, that's what you're seeing, it, except for this one. And on this particular video, there is no evidence at all of any compression, no evidence of any inferior mirage. It is just a very, very clear day. So I'm going to play a bit of the video now. Now that I've given it a bit of a build-up, it's absolutely sensational. I can't believe how good it is. It literally is shore to shore, and we're talking nearly 14 miles away. This is the lighthouse that he's trying to see. As you can see, it's right on the shoreline. And look how calm the water is.
Wow.
It's like a pond. And he zooms in, And look at that. Absolutely sensational. There isn't an ounce of obstruction there.
And that's 14 miles away.
Yeah, and these are further away. These buildings here are further away. You see down to the tree line. I mean, you see in the shoreline here with the trees in the foreground. You see the boats traversing in front of your eye line. It is completely flat. And like I say, the one thing that's really evident in this video is the stillness of the water. There's barely a ripple on it. You can see the reflection of the clouds in the actual water. That's how still it is. And obviously, with this kind of condition, this proves how flat that water is without any movement. And we know that the dynamic of the water is dynamic in the ocean. It's got a swell to it. Here, you can absolutely see that it doesn't have any swell whatsoever. You can see a boat right here, absolutely flat as a pancake. And all that lighthouse, let's be honest, all of that lighthouse, apart from the very, very tippy top, the black part at the very top, should be hidden behind Earth curve.
Yeah, wow. Let's not forget the importance of waves. I know it sounds obvious to us, but to dumb ballers don't understand that little waves make a difference to things that are big, that are big but tiny in the background because of perspective. Waves do make a difference. I know they all laugh about it, but they really do, and this is proof.
I was going to have this exact conversation because Ranty and I had it literally, I don't know, yesterday or the day before, right, Ranty?
Yeah.
And you just go, the bit that you showed a second ago with the lighthouse, about 5 or 6 seconds before that, there's, I don't know what it is, something under the water makes a little ripple. And I want you to just go back and just play that again. Hopefully you've got you clicked on with your white box around you so it doesn't stay
there.
Right, exactly. So if you imagine that effect of that little ripple was amplified throughout the entire surface of the water, you're effectively increasing the height of the water. You have to excuse my tired kid in the background, sorry. So you're effectively raising the level. Now you can imagine as you go further out in distance, as you look at that little ripple, that the effect of multitudes of little ripples would effectively limit the angle that you're viewing things at in the distance. So it was you that sort of, because I had a conundrum with this when you were talking about Barrow, because there was an unexplained mirage. Because you were saying, well, it's the same condition, same height of the tide. And then you explained about tidal bores, i.e. a push where you've got a level of water that's literally riding on top of another layer of water. And that is going to limit the angle to the bottom of anything you see in the distance and force it into the diffraction limit by virtue of you having a more limited angle to it because the water's higher or you've got ripples. But as you say in this red pill video, it is like a mill pond. You know, it's so calm, it's untrue. You can see reflections.
Look at the wake on the boat that's traveling right to left. It's putting a little wake out because it's not a tsunami. But look at the size of the wake. It looks like it's presenting to us. It looks like it's massive, and we all know that wakes are little tiny things. But for some reason, that looks like it's like, I don't know. It's like evaporating water, steaming almost. It's that big.
Well, I've got a couple of diagrams that I can show you that I've been working on. So they're very crude, so you'll have to bear with me. I love my paint. And I think it's only because I don't have anything else to actually do this kind of stuff with. But
other than the markers and papers that I use, Ranty, so don't worry about it.
Well, what we're looking at here, let's pretend this is the lighthouse. I've used the Leaning Tower of Pisa because essentially I was trying to be smart and say that this should be tilting away as well. And as much as that is true, I'll just explain it as this is. This is the lighthouse. Let's pretend this is the lighthouse, and that's the black top of it. So this is all we should see on their globe model. This is it, the very top of the lighthouse. And essentially, when we look at it from your camera, you've got the hump that's here, and then you'll only be able to see the very top of it, just like so. And this is their model. So this is the curvature of the Earth. It gets in the way, and it stops you from seeing the bottom. Things start to change when you actually start to see at least, say, half of the lighthouse. Because at this point, the globe model says it's broken. And at this point, the globe is literally saying, we have to account for this. And how they account for that is that they say that this isn't really there. What they say is that this is where it really is. But you're seeing it like this.
I mean, they say this about the sun and the moon as well.
Yeah. And the reason that you're seeing it, this is the reason that you're seeing it, is because this hologram, I've put 2 here, so we've got 2 here. We've got 1 and 2. This is the real lighthouse. And it's being loomed up beyond the curvature of the Earth. It's literally being loomed up into your eye line. So it's floating in midair. It's a hologram. It's not really there.
Is it being loomed up from beyond the imaginary curve?
Beyond the imaginary curve. This is what their model is. This is what, when they say refraction,
shouldn't you still be able to see the top of the real lighthouse, though?
Yes. Yes, you would think that, wouldn't you? That's a very good point. I never thought of that.
No,
that just hit me.
It came up in debate because you should be able to see a section of it by virtue of the bottom being in proportion with the rest of it. That makes the entire island, in the case of the Isle of Man, when this came up on debate, a hologram. The entire thing. None of it's where it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Well, this is 7.6R. What they're saying, this terrestrial refraction, this is what they account for. So let's suppose that you're now seeing this much of the lighthouse. So they've applied standard refraction. And this is what standard refraction does in their model, right? First and foremost, you have a sphere, and you have you can mathematically calculate what the curvature should be of around 8 inch per mile squared. But then when you get this kind of stuff where you're seeing more of the building than you should do, and it's being loomed up, this is called refraction. And this is how they explain it.
Sorry, I'll make a correction. Sorry.
Go on.
That's called terrestrial refraction.
I did mention that before.
Refraction does happen. This is not refraction. This is the question fallacy on steroids called terrestrial refraction, 7/6R.
Yeah, I did say terrestrial refraction before. I just forgot to include it right there. But yeah, so this is their model. This is what they say. So if you were to believe in the globe model, you have to believe that when you watch this video of Red Pill Philosophy over here, when you're looking at this video, and essentially the globe says that you should be seeing just the top of the lighthouse here. But when you see the rest of the lighthouse, you then have to believe that every single thing that you see in this video, including the buildings in the moment, when he pans across to the buildings here, all of these are being loomed up around the curvature of the Earth by virtue of terrestrial refraction, 7/6R. And because it's such a flat, calm day on this particular day, and he's literally seeing shore to shore, this is extreme looming, super looming on steroids. Right, so we have super looming on steroids. Hyena hasn't got a chance. We're going to have to upgrade it from hyena to rabid hyena. This is rabid hyena, steroids, looming, you name it, because this is flat as a pancake. And wouldn't you know that the water itself that we're looking across barely has a ripple on? Yeah.
Right, can I just address all of the issues with this? So the first statement you made was you start off with a sphere. Was that not? That's correct as your first statement.
In their model.
Right. Well, to start with, I'll point out that every single quote-unquote proof of the globe will start with the presupposition that you're on a sphere. So as Ranty did in this example, you start off with a sphere. So the first thing you do with every globe example is place the subject on a sphere. In other words, assuming the outcome. This is what is known as begging the question, a logical fallacy, where you assume the outcome you're trying to prove by starting off on a sphere. From there, it gets ever more ridiculous, as Ranty's just so eloquently pointed out. You start off with the assumption that you're on a sphere. Then, when you see something that's geometrically not possible to see, you then have this 7/6R terrestrial refraction, bending the light around the presupposition of a sphere, the begging the question fallacy that is R, to bring it back into your line of sight. So it's a begging the question fallacy on steroids, 7/6R being a begging the question fallacy, and the R itself, the radius of the Earth that you've assumed, to necessitate just seeing something that should not be there if you assume that sphere. So it is so convoluted for those of you who want to believe they live on a model of a sphere that it makes you suddenly, if you're on the edge, go, this is so ludicrous to jump through these hoops just to look at a bloody lighthouse and say, there's a lighthouse, which is what we do as flat earthers. There's a lighthouse. We see it. It's there. No need for any explanation other than opening our eyes and looking at it.
Yeah. And one other thing I would want to point out is that if you notice on the video how still the water is. Now, in our belief, we just see it because it's there. And the flatter something is, we just see it. So, okay, then, in the real world, we just see it because it's there. let's just do. Hang on, why am I not doing that? Image flatten.
Yeah, just one more thing. We see it because it's there. The Earth is obviously and observably flat. It doesn't need any explanation when we see a lighthouse in the distance. It's just flat as a pancake. That's the reason. There is no further explanation required. No looming. This is all nonsense. I just want to make this clear throughout this entire session that what we are describing is ridiculous.
Yeah, and rather than just saying this is what's happening, we've just removed the Earth curve and we're just seeing it, right? Because that's what we're essentially saying. We're saying that we just see it. There is no Earth curve in the way, and we just see it because the water laid absolutely flat. There was no waves, and the camera was just able to see it. So which model would you believe? The one that just says we see it because it's there and it's flat water, or the one that's loomed up everything in this video? Every single thing in this video loomed up.
I do want to bring into this. This is the main reason that Zach's on the panel.
Sure, yeah. Great. I'm looking forward to this.
When you do have the effects of the water being risen beyond what it is when it's perfectly flat, you do have a limitation being brought into play, i.e. the angle of view to the bottom of that lighthouse would be restricted. You've got less to be able to see. And that obstruction, which would fill up the near foreground, will therefore make it appear like it's being cut off at the bottom, when combined with a limitation of the angle to the bottom of the lighthouse. So I'm hoping that Zach can elaborate a little bit about that while you dig something out, Ranty. So I'm going to give Zach a few seconds to jump on the mic. But can you dig out the picture that you showed on Jaren's show the other day with 2 diffraction limits in the same picture?
Yes, of course can.
So hopefully Zach can pick up from there. Hopefully I've led you enough, Zach.
Yeah. Every lens with a certain size aperture, I've come to the realization that I think it all has to do with aperture size. Now, of course, when you're doing a certain location on multiple days or different days, then atmosphere is, of course, going to be your biggest factor, no matter what. But if it was a pure nitrogen, oxygen-based atmosphere, and that was all, that was in the way, there was no moisture in the air, no dust, this would still take place. There's a certain angle that once it gets so small, you just can't, it's like trying to read the eye chart. If you were to make it twice as far away, you wouldn't be able to see all the little letters, right? Even though they're still right there in front of us on a level plane, we're all at the same level. You couldn't make them out. You probably wouldn't even see the line. The line would probably be gone. It all has to do with the limitation of your eyes. It's and I'm actually excuse me, starting to research something else that Gav turned me on to. And there might even be more reasons why we don't see as well on certain days compared to others. That just has to do with the amount of light. So I got a lot more research. I don't want to say too much because I'm really not sure. But yeah, there's so much to learn about the eyes and how they work and the limitations and certain factors that can be brought in that you can't get around. So yeah, the whole globe thing is, I'm with you, Ranty. We are seeing this, and Nathan, and I'm pretty sure everybody on this panel, you're seeing that lighthouse exactly how it is. Now it looks a little distorted. I'll give it that. The kind of the ripple effect, the waves in it that you're seeing. But that's atmospheric seeing. That's common. That's just, I bet if you went and looked on the weather for this day, the water temp and the air temp were similar. Probably not exactly the same, but I bet they were very similar.
That would be interesting to find out, actually. I tried to get Red Pill to come on today, but he hasn't seen my message. So hopefully he'll be able to get back to me with an answer for that.
I know when I had my best pictures taken, the air and water temp were right around 36 degrees.
The bit that I want to focus on specifically, Zach and Ranty, is what Ranty describes as like a cause, and he'll say the obstruction is the mirage. So on Jaren's show, you were like 99% there because you were describing the effects of perspective, things getting smaller into the distance, and then you said it meets the mirage. Now, if it was a mirage, and by that I mean an atmospheric effect. Now, I know we've had this conversation already, Ranty. I'm not condescending to you. I know we've talked about this already. I'm just illustrating it for the audience's benefit. That atmospheric effect wouldn't be consistent on the horizontal, whereas I'm hoping you'll get that picture with the two, one above the other of this. You wouldn't have it consistently across your entire field of view. Here we go. So I'm hoping you'll chime in on this specifically, Zach, because what I see in this is the diffraction limit being met and breached, therefore causing this splitting of the light that you described when you've got the mathematics for the Rayleigh criterion on. And that's what we see time and time again with people doing these angle of attack videos, lowering their lights into the diffraction limit. They split in half and then disappear. Well, when Ranty did it on the track with the egg and the Buddha, it gave the exact same effect on the floor across that flat surface, with it basically doing the same as you can see on screen here. You get the most limited angle, i.e. the bottom of stuff, miraging down. And maybe you want to pipe up on this bit, Ranty, because you were detailing it with the reflection. How it's not a reflection. It doesn't follow the same. Well, you take over, Ranty. It's your
Yeah, sure. So this boat, there's a boat in the background. This part here and this part there and this line that runs through. It's a full boat, and it's a big boat. It's probably around about 70 or 80 feet in height, and most of the boat is hidden behind the atmosphere. There's the sky above it. It's repeated down. You can't. It's forming some kind of blockage that you can't see, and it's presenting itself as an inferior mirage. So you can see that where it's doubling down here and it's repeating. Everything's exactly the same as you would expect. The good thing about this one particular observation, though, if I can get over here. Oh, hang on. Yeah, the one good thing about this particular observation was that there was another boat in the foreground, and this is it here. Looks like a bit like I don't know, just a pair of teeth or something. But if I put the inferior mirage on that, so that's the line going through the inferior mirage on this one, and this is nearer and this one's further away. Now what this proves is it's an angle. So if I'm looking at it, I'm looking at it straight on. So I've got three things that I'm looking at. So here's me, right? Here's boat one. Here's this boat, and here's the boat in the distance, right? The big boat. And as we look at it, so there's my camera. I'm now looking across, and what I'm seeing is it's an angle like so, because that's how it's appearing on each. Can you see how it's appearing on each boat higher up?
You could actually measure the diffraction angle.
Yep.
Wow, with the atmosphere included.
Yep. And believe it or not, this boat in the distance is only about 8 miles away. And I was at an elevation right now of 12 feet above sea level. So essentially, I should have seen almost 90% of this boat, right? And I'm literally, most of it is hidden behind the inferior mirage.
Ranty, you're not trying to tell me that boats don't go beyond the curve, do you?
I could well be saying that. And I could well be saying that the atmosphere hides an awful lot of things. And the atmosphere on this particular day was forming an inferior mirage, which was hiding the bottom of this boat. I have it on a video. It's actually called...
Just before you go on, so, in this instance, I would say, as opposed to Red Pill's video where you've got a mill pond, you can obviously see that there's water, and it's far more dynamic in its nature. And that is causing the deck to be higher and limit the angle to the bottom of the boat in the near foreground and the stuff in the background. So you've got two diffraction limits. The one behind is causing what you call the sky, used to be labeled as atmosphere, dirty air, whatever, to be miraged down in the background of the boat. Whereas the boat in the near foreground is in the diffraction limit. In other words, it's already being lost to the diffraction limit. You're just seeing the top with the wider angle. So therefore, in my humble opinion, when you see this inferior mirage, it is the diffraction limit being met and breached.
I think it has an angle. It's definitely an angular relation between the two, because with this being in the foreground and this in the background, we have two distinct inferior mirages happening in two distinct areas. So there's no deny. I mean, if this inferior mirage was not an angle, then, and it was the same as the one in the background, then this entire boat, well, right to the top, actually, you'd only just see the very, very top of it, because it would just be one consistent line. So you could just get away with that line.
Absolutely correct, Ranty. It is the angle, and the limitation thereof is where you get the diffraction limit from.
I also think it's variable depending on the weather. So like on this day, let's give it an arbitrary ½ a degree. Let's say that it's ½ a degree is the angle with which this inferior mirage is. So it's ½ a degree to this boat, ½ a degree to this boat, but because it's further away, it ends up much higher up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, this is great. It gives me goosebumps, if I'm honest, because this is the meeting of minds between Ranty and I, because I'm barking up the angle tree nonstop. He's barking up the atmosphere tree nonstop. We finally come to the conclusion that it's a mixture of the two things. So you can have a limitation of the angle being caused by the atmosphere. So it is far more complex than just to say it's a limitation of the angle. Now, that's not true with angle of attack videos, because there's no atmosphere to take into consideration. With this at 15 plus miles, there is. You're looking over water, which is dynamic. Again, that can limit the angle also, and all the crap in the air. So there's a whole number of factors that can, in turn, limit the angle.
Look at that water line where it looks like the water is.
Yeah.
That first diffraction limit is still far away from it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've called this fake waves in the past. And what I'm tending to see now is that this sky is being miraged down over the water. And then as the water is sort of moving around and changing the atmosphere, it breaks that inferior mirage slightly, and you see these fake waves. So you've got this fake wave here, there's a fake wave there, and it'll appear and disappear, and then there'll be another one. And then there'll be another one and another one. You should watch the videos back where I document this actually happening.
Well, can I give a slightly different explanation to that fake wave?
Yeah.
In the same way as the boat is above the diffraction limit, that section of the boat has a wide enough angle to see. Therefore, you can still see it. Well, as the water moves, sections of the water will also come back into view. In other words, back from beyond the diffraction limit. And therefore you see them like they're floating in midair, because it's a section that might be in the near foreground versus the also refracted down in the background section that you're calling the sky mirage. Well, that is also caused by a limitation of the angle to the stuff in the background. Well, so I think it is all interconnected.
Let's not forget something here, that in the curve calculator, begging the question, okay, so let's look at this boat, right? Let's suppose that we're supposed to see a little bit of blockage on the back one. Let's suppose we're supposed to see it here, right? Then why is there more blockage? And why, when I played that video before, this this video here, when we just see shore to shore, which is at a further distance, this is 13.75 miles and 14.5. That boat was only 8 miles away.
Well, it all has to do with particulates in the atmosphere. That'll change your diffraction angle.
Yep.
That's why when I do my little equation that I wrote, that was just for the limit. That was the absolute limit that would be blocked with a perfect oxygen, nitrogen based atmosphere. As soon as you start adding humidity and dust particulates, that angle will just get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger.
And if you imagine
that, it was an amazing picture.
There's something Anthony added. I'm going to just steal his thunder and say it, and he'll probably add to it. But you can't have two Earth curves. You can't have 2 points where these things are being obscured by Earth curve. That's nonsense, especially as the only way to have the one in the background with a higher diffraction limit is if you're looking across a flat plane. So the only explanation for these two diffraction limits in Ranty's footage is looking across a flat plane with a limited angle to both the thing in the foreground and the thing in the background. That's only explainable on a flat plane.
Oh, that never even crossed my mind.
The curve that they say, which is normally put at this diffraction limit, you can't have two of them.
That's it. You can't have the curvature of the Earth being here and then dropping away.
And then having it back up here again.
which nicely brings us back to looming. So again, the explanation for the globe Earth would be that, no, the stuff in the near foreground is looming a little bit, and the stuff in the background is looming quite a lot, right?
Now, I would say that sometimes there is something that is called looming that takes place, but I would consider looming. I thought that was like what Rob Skiba had caught when he crossed Lake Michigan. And the top of the Sears Tower got real big.
Yeah, but hang on. Let's remember what looming is on their model. Looming is where it's being bent back from behind the curve. What we call looming is not based, it's not subject to a curve. So what they're saying is that light can bend around the corner of a bend. Well, we're saying, well, we know what light does, kind of, but if you're going to claim these things, let's see a little bit of that curve, because you need that curve for your version of looming to exist.
Yeah.
It's surprising that curve always seems to conform to the attributes of this diffraction limit with mirages below it. Just saying.
Yeah. Hijacked. Would you say they've hijacked perspective, Nathan, and replaced it with curve?
Yeah, basically. They ignore all aspects of perspective. I mean, that's worth a mention, because the way they do it is now absolutely and abundantly clear. Instead of using these angles that we're detailing in great detail, we are subject to whole numbers, so feet and inches. And Anthony, with his 10-foot wall, it's always 10 foot no matter what distance. If you're using that measuring structure, doesn't matter if you're right next to it looking up at the 10-foot wall, or if it's 30 miles away. In those measurements that go into the begging the question proof of nothing perspective hijacking curve calculator, they always use those whole numbers, not the angle. And the angle decreases with distance. And eventually, if you've got too limited an angle, it goes into the diffraction limit and starts to disappear bottom up if you've got stuff above it that you can still see because you've got a wider angle. None of this is considered in the begging the question proof of nothing perspective hijacking curve calculator. Whole numbers only. Feet and inches, miles and kilometers. That's it.
And let's not forget, Ranty, I know this is going to be a bit of a curveball, but do you have do you remember the composite for the Isle of Man? Do you have that to hand?
I do. Just bear with me. I want to put this in. Let's get this quite looking. I want people to be fully understanding exactly what they're saying here. They're actually saying that this is looming nonsense, looming and refraction. So whenever you hear somebody say that's refraction, this is what they're actually saying. They're saying that this stupid thing. I need a different thing. This is what's happening. This building or whatever is being lifted up from its original position and being pushed up into your eye line so that you can now see it. And it's now floating there in the middle of the air. And even though we see it for hours on end and all day and it never moves, it never shimmies, the weather conditions stay consistent, with consistent heat and cold temperatures to have this refraction effect. And for the entire day, even though it gets warmer and colder, these buildings stay in their exact same position at all times and never move.
Right. So let's say it this way real quick. Let's say it this way. In every instance, this is my great scale negator. In every instance, the world that is spinning and curved presents itself to us in every instance as though it were not. So it doesn't matter what the scale is for you. You could be at 6 miles, you could be at 14 miles, you could be at 20 miles. When you look out, you will see what you see as if it were on a stationary flat plane.
Yeah. Anthony, anything to add to that?
It debunks looming from behind the curve. It's literally an angle with a little bit of atmospheric effects, like to distort it a little bit.
Well, I mean, this isn't needed to debunk anything. I mean, that's why I did it at the beginning. You know, to assume you're on a sphere to make this example in the first instance is totally fallacious. To assume R is a begging the question fallacy. To assume 7/6R, terrestrial fraction, is a begging the question fallacy on steroids. So this isn't necessary. We're trying to explain what we do actually see, because we do see these effects, which is why so many globe heads love to come to Ranty's channel, so they can go, oh, look, what we call an angular limitation causing the diffraction limit to be reached and breached, therefore a bottom-up obstruction is what you visualize. That's how we would verbally describe it. They come, see the pretty pictures of boat, bottom missing, curve. That's what they come for. They're anti-subject to this all the time. It's amusing to me, because we're actually trying to figure out, we don't need this to debunk the assertion of Earth curve. It's a begging the question fallacy. We don't live on a model also. That's a reification fallacy. So that's not what we're trying to achieve. But for the people who are interested, well, why the hell do boats disappear bottom first? Well, they reach and breach a limitation of their angle, and you can only see something so small when you're looking out. You know, there's going to be some stuff that's too small to see. The bottom of that boat fits that criteria. So that's as simple as that, really. That's why it disappears bottom first. We know it, but there's more to it. Why does the angle change when you're looking over water? It seems obvious. It's dynamic. So is the atmosphere. That is going to change the limitations that you have in terms of your angle to things. It's also going to cause near foreground obstruction. Well, that's going to make the combination of those two things make it look like it's being obscured from bottom up, i.e. it's actually going over something. Well, no, it isn't. You know, that's what we're trying to explain. But, you know, I see what you're saying, Anthony. There's going to be the globeheads out there that think we're here to debunk that nonsense reification fallacy they'll have. You don't live on a model, globeheads. That's all you need to know. You don't live on a model.
I don't know if I'm going to be echoing or repeating someone who said this. I haven't heard anybody say this, so I'm going to say it. No one has ever, with their naked eye, no one has ever seen a ship go over the curve. What I mean by that is, there's no way their eye is that acute to distinguish that very fact. They can't see it. They can't know it. It's impossible. If you just stand out on the beach and watch a ship go away and say, okay, I'm going to watch for when the curve happens, you're never going to see it. So it's complete bullshit. Whoever said that Aristotle was the one who said that the Earth is curved because a ship goes over the curve, he didn't see that. There's no way he saw that.
I had to laugh at today. I watched a portion of a video by Fight the Flat Earth, and I heard him say that 300 or 400 years ago, these scientists had proved the globe by their optical experiments. I was like, what? So you're telling me that they saw the curvature of the Earth? And he actually, I mean, I know he's a new globe earther, and he probably deserves all the hassle he gets, but essentially, I mean, come on. He even said that Einstein proved the globe. What is this guy on?
Did he actually use the words optical experiment?
Well, he said, essentially, he said something like, that they were able to see the curvature. I was like, come on. I'll have to dig it out. I'll dig it out.
That's another drum that Red Pill Philosophy's banging on at the moment, which is to say that Neil deGrasse Tyson does a stage act, if you want to call it that. Yeah, I'm just going to call it that, a stage act, where he's explaining that the ISS would never see the Earth curvature, and they're using fisheye lenses, and it's like in relation to this beach ball of an Earth model, it would only be a millimeter above that beach ball, so you're never going to see that Earth curve. And he says something to the effect of that stuff is flat, or this stuff is flat, something like that. And that's Neil deGrasse's stance on it. And, you know, that was always my understanding as a globehead when I was doing international travel. You look out the window and go, I wish I could see Earth curve. I know damn well I can't. It looks flat as a pancake. But I know I have to go considerably higher to even see the slightest semblance of Earth curve. Now, I'm saying all this, but I'm going to qualify it by saying that is not true. If you lived on a ball, you would see, given the circumference radius, whichever value you prefer, you would see Earth curve from ground level. You'd be able to photograph it. That's the ironic thing. You should be able to photograph Earth curve from ground level. We've gone through it in great detail again during the Isle of Man debate when we were modelling out what should or should not be seen on an Earth of the radius that they claim. So you should see Earth curve. You don't see it. The rhetoric from the priests, Neil deGrasse Tyson, is that you should never, ever see it, even if you're on the ISS. So there you go. It's all double speak. We don't live on a model. You
wanted this image, Anthony?
Yeah. This is where... Can you zoom in a bit, Nathan? Ranty, to that
to which?
Lighthouse. Me and Nathan spotted this in the Hangouts, and we were waiting for the ballers to mention it, but they never mentioned it, and we never really understood for why until basically now with this angle. What we realised is that this lighthouse is cut in half and it's reflecting underneath itself. And the proof of that is if you scroll the photo across to the right so that we're effectively looking left. No, the other way. Keep going towards where we were saying Douglas and Bala. You'll see a really prominent line in the picture that becomes obvious.
Here.
Yeah, go a bit further. Yeah, you can see it there, but go a bit further over. I think it gets worse as it goes over to the left. Yeah, it's back floaty land. All right, go the other way to view it is go right to the end.
Well, just before you go any further, I just want to talk about this floaty land because this is really important because I've documented recently about this floaty land and how that essentially we are seeing everything underneath it should be visible, but this inferior mirage is blocking it off. I've demonstrated it plenty of times before, and what you actually see is this land is getting further away. It's not a straight on image. For instance, I'll just give some arbitrary values here, but let's say it's 35, 40 miles to this place here. When you come to this place here, it's 45, 50 miles away. Now, I don't know if that's completely accurate, but it's not far off. So when you get into these points here and this land is getting further and further away, what happens is it just blends into, it doesn't drop off. Can you see where it just stops here? It's just that it's been lost to the atmosphere. This inferior mirage that is clearly getting stronger over distance has finally...
No. It's not lost to the atmosphere. So the reason you're seeing sky underneath is because the land isn't tall enough to have a full mirage of its own land that's above it. Some of it's including the sky. This is, again, meeting and breaching the diffraction limit by virtue of distance and size. The angle to the bottom of this land, which we all know is about 250 feet high, it's very low, isn't big enough to have a full mirage of itself underneath, so you end up with the sky underneath at the diffraction limit. Well, yeah, ordinarily, if that land wasn't there, you wouldn't know the difference. It would just be a full all the way down to the horizon with sky. But because there is land there, and because it's... Oh, I'm sorry, sausage. Daddy's talking flat earth.
Hi, Eleanor.
Because you do have land there, it's reaching that limited angle. And, you know, with the dynamics of the water, sometimes floaty land is there, sometimes it isn't. This is true looming. And it's an effect of a limitation of the angle causing the sky above the land, which you have a limited angle of view to, being reflected below the land itself. It is to do with the atmosphere in the respect that the sea is causing that limitation of angle. I mean, I'm hoping Zach will back me up. This is the point where I've got Zach in for. Back me up, Zach, please, please.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all... I've noticed that when you get... further away too, when the angle gets smaller and, well, appears smaller to you because you're further away, you know, what am I trying to say here? Like you were saying, the further away you are, the better chance you're going to have that you're going to see the bottom mirrored. It's when you're up closer and you don't have that amount of angle.
Yeah, and you'll get this at all altitudes as well.
Yeah,
because as your eyes pick up to the horizon, if it's clear enough visibility, you're going to see further. If it's obviously not clear enough visibility, you're not going to see that far. So the angle's not going to reduce enough to horizon level for it to do this weird effect. But when it's clear enough, basically, this is the effect that Soundly's seen. He's calling curve. Ranty, if you just go across to the far right hand side, you know where the nose cone dropped into the sea.
Oh yeah,
and it lips back under itself.
Yep.
this is the exact same effect. There, stop there. Obviously, we know that that's not an overhang, that is huge like a cave, right? But whatever's going on, now we understand more of it. It's clear that that Soundly is seeing the same effect on his bridge and his pylons, because this is bending under itself because of the angle, the observation of the angle. It's probably worth me, Ranty. I'm screen sharing. Do you want to present me to everybody, and I'll show my Soundly thing?
Sure.
Because when I realised that there,
you are presenting.
So obviously this is Soundly's live hangout that he did the other day, and I've got it slowed right down, and obviously you can see that as he zooms right in, all the way up to and including the very, very, very end of it, we can see clearly that the bridge is flat. There ain't no curve there. Let's not forget this is only 17 miles, which compared to Red Pill Philosophy's lighthouse, it's basically the same distance. So if Soundless is the curve of the Earth, it also means that Red Pill Philosophies must be convexed or whatever, because they're not consistent. They're not the same. Now, if I've done this really slow so that we don't miss it, but notice the gaps between all these little post box things on the side. I know the little huts or whatever they are, but the gaps are predictable. But notice as we get towards that horizon, for some reason, they seem to double up. Would anybody disagree that they appear to get more frequent? Yeah, you could argue it's the angle, but there seems to be a frequency change in how frequent they become. And it's almost as if I move over a little bit, it's almost as if the doubling up, it seems to be more like double what it actually is. And I think it's almost as if there's a reflection of the last, in other words, the doubling up in the same way that you get like an infinite mirror. You just get like a light. If the atmosphere appears to be reflecting something back on itself, you're going to get more than one repetition of what you're looking at. That to me seems to be what we're looking at with Soundlies, because they do appear to double up. There seems to be far more than what there should be over that distance, as a function of distance. And I'll see if I can show you there. I mean, the last one is this is really difficult to do. The last one, the last one that's real looks like this one here, and then everything else that goes behind it looks like it's doubling up. So it's only really half the amount that's actually there. I don't know why it does that. It just looks that it's doubling up in terms of quantity. But I'll tell you what else is interesting. Mickey, come here. Tell you what else is interesting. We're able to repeat this effect. Now, we see this in the composite of Isle of Man, but he's getting this on a depth, on a perception of depth. So he's getting this, like, not just, I mean, again, look at this. We're seeing it, the same thing. Look at how squashed up these pylons are. There's not that many pylons in this stretch. Yeah, there is a load of pylons, but Nick from Phuket Word, he demonstrated that we can make this horizon appear to dip just by changing the elevation.
Can you go back real quick?
Possibly. Maybe I can't. No, I don't think I can actually while I'm doing this.
Okay.
No, I don't think I can. I'd have to just replay it again.
I don't know at that point though. You were just about to come to the crescendo.
Yeah, well, as he gets right to the very bottom, you can clearly see that it's getting lipped back on itself. And obviously, we've got Jose Gonzalez. He shows the exact same thing. It lips back on itself. It seems to bend away right at the very, very extremity. Now, in the background of this railway track, you can see that there's a locomotive on the train tracks. So we know that there's no hill. There is a physical locomotive on the train tracks. So on the one hand, these guys are saying it's curve of the Earth and it's beautiful, and they're all holding his willy. But of course, it's clearly a mixture of atmospheric conditions, reflection or whatever, mixed in with angle, mixed in with God knows what else. But basically, it's a shower of shit. But it's definitely not the curve of the Earth, and we can all agree on that one. Yet they still punt it as curve of the Earth. It's ridiculous.
Hey guys, listen. I just want to ask. You're seeing Anthony on the screen right now. Do you like his setup? So it's 1 for yes and 2 for no.
Yeah, because I want feedback on this, because Nathan hates it, but I think it's really quite cool.
What's quite cool?
The way I'm presenting my screen at the minute.
Anthony's going hoary sheet.
No, that's not what I said at all. I only objected to the ticker tape. That looked terrible.
Well, I'm playing around with things because I'll be honest, not having Nathan's show's killing me, right? It really is killing me. I'm bored. So what? Yeah, let me just flip back to. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll just flick onto this, and I'll just give you the sales pitch. What I'm thinking of doing is just for the interim whilst Nathan's about. I don't want to call it the Flat Earth debate because obviously that's the name that Nathan's got. But I also want to do something because I'm bored of not seeing anything at 2 o'clock. And as nice as Arwin is and whatnot, I want a little bit of poking the bear. I like seeing the back and forth, and I like the discussion, and I like the interaction. So what I'm thinking of doing is bringing up something that I can interact, like, you know, do something with. And I've got something really cool sorted. It's going to be boss. So that's where I'm going to go for in the short term. But I tell you what else I need to do as well. And Ranty needs to consider doing this too. We should have like shout outs for the channels that we like support. Or even if we don't really support them, like if you get a new viewer that doesn't realize because we're all being actively suppressed now by YouTube, it's got to the point where we really need to shout out the channels, even if we do or don't necessarily agree with everything that goes on. We should shout out these channels because if you're new to this channel and you don't know of all the other key ones, there's a shout out to all the people that I tend to spend my time watching, because even if we don't agree with everything that's being said,
hold on. Sorry.
Where's Zach?
Sorry. There's loads of people that will just be listening to this as opposed to reading it. Can you just verbalize all of those names?
No,
All
no.
right.
How about this? It would not take any time at all for all of us to make a 30-second plug of our own channel, and then just play it. When you've got a show, at the beginning of your show, click play and plug a channel.
Yeah. All right, so I'll read the list. We've got Globebusters, Nathan Oakley 1980, Jeranism. Of course, the latest entry is Roxanne the Globalist Denier. If you haven't added her to your list, add. Phuket Word, lots of comments from him. Loads of videos. He does loads of videos. If you're not familiar with Phuket Word, you need to add him immediately. My Perspective, Rory. His videos are so cool. He must spend hours preparing the animations for that stuff. I don't know how he does it, because he'll dedicate hours to one point, and it's just beautiful on the eye. So Rory's excellent. If you've not come across him, you need to add him immediately. Obviously Patricia at Flat Earth and Other Hot Potatoes. And last but by no means least, we have Beyond the Imaginary Curve. Don't agree with everything he says. I don't even agree with how he behaves. However, he is somebody that's worth listening to. If you've just come to this channel and you're not sure about how to research Flat Earth, because as we know, if you type in Flat Earth now into the search engines, you get all these crappy videos that are claiming debunks on stuff that really don't debunk anything. They apply logic and reason to explain stuff that they want to explain away, and provide zero evidence, especially no science, to prove or debunk the claim that's being made by us. So this is a direct attack of the what's the word, the censorship that YouTube are clicking in, because it's driving me mad.
I'd like to put some others in there. Obviously, we've got Good Tims for All, Zachary Zabala. He's in the chat right now with us, and he's on the panel, and he does some fantastic stuff. Absolutely go and subscribe to him. Trying to think, Arwin. Is Arwin not on there, Anthony?
Yeah, Arwin needs a shout out.
Arwin does need a shout out.
On and on, doesn't it? I mean, we've got
IRM Media.
We've got Zachary Zabala, who is GUDTIMS number 4 ALL. Good times for all. And we've also got The Plain Truth, Travis. So loads of people. The list of decent flat earthers at the moment is just too long to go through. I mean, 3 years ago there was hardly anybody. You know, a lot of the people on the list that's there were actually there quite some time ago, with the exception of maybe Dell and Roxanne. You know, My Perspective, certainly Patricia, Phuket Word.
I know, but listen to this though.
Aaron.
Listen though, Nathan. I had a gent round at my house the other night, and honest to God, he didn't know half the names on that list. And I'm like, wow, how have you been in Flat Earth and not he realizes that we're not on a ball already, but he hadn't come across like Beyond the Imaginary Curve. And I'm like, really? So really, it just dawned on me that a lot of new people that are coming to the Flat Earth now are not going to realize.
Zach, that's not a bad idea to point people in the right direction.
Sorry, Zach, you know your Aries diffraction that you did across the floor?
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to tell people a little bit about what happened there?
Yeah, this is one that anybody can really do, and quite a few people have done since. I've seen a couple live on Nathan's show, actually. Pretty much, you want to take a camera. I mean, it could even be a P900, really, if you have a nice long distance. I found with my P610, right at about 80 to 100 feet, you could already start seeing it taking place, the bottom being mirrored and cut off. But just set an object on a flat surface and slowly walk away from it, taking a picture every, I did it about every 20 feet. And I had up to, with the P610, 60 by optical zoom, I think it was about 3.5 inches at 450 feet away was obscured, that a big giant lens like that couldn't make out. But I mean, you do it with your cell phone and you can do it at probably 40, 50 feet, no problem. Go to an airport and you can watch people's feet disappear, being cut off on a flat surface as they're walking away from you. Or a local mall, something like that. You can go to your local Wally World if you want. Yeah, you don't need a fancy camera. The smaller the aperture, the better, actually. And that's diffraction. Now, if you were closer to the ceiling, that's why it's diffraction. If you were closer to the ceiling, things that were closer to the ceiling would start getting cut off first, and not things at the bottom. So it's not that the things at the bottom are being cut off first. It's that you're closer to the bottom of those things. Therefore, that part that is equal to your line of sight, wherever you're looking, that is where the diffraction is going to take place. Right on that line, your eye line.
Yeah.
Well,
I want to. Sorry, go on, Travis. Go on.
Okay, thanks. So I guess what I hear you saying, or at least the way I was listening to you, was that it's also the surface of the ground in its relationship to the bottom of the object. Because if the object were up in the air and didn't have the adjacent ground next to it, you wouldn't have any of that visual demonstration. But the closer you get that object to the ground, so it's the ground that's a part of it too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like I was saying, if you were on a ceiling of a long hallway,
that's what helped me.
You would notice the smoke detectors would start disappearing from the part that's connected to the ceiling.
Right.
So they wouldn't start disappearing bottom up; they'd disappear top down.
That's right. That's because it's not the bottom, or it's not the bottom that's the issue. It's proximity to another object.
Exactly. Well said.
Exactly. And the deck of the ocean, the dynamic nature of it means that it will raise and limit the angle.
Mm-hmm.
So I just want to bring it back onto this looming side of things, because when the Globers talk about looming and refraction, it's the same thing. So when they say refraction, it's essentially meaning that the object that you're looking at is being loomed up, or bent around the curvature of the Earth into the lens of the camera. So essentially it's moving its position. It's being dragged up so that you can see it. And we have two ways of looking at it. We have that, okay, this is Earth curve in their model. This is what they say is real, that you're only seeing the very top of this building, and that the other color underneath is the sea. And this is the right at the middle part here is the hump. That's the hump, and that's why we can't see the rest of the building. Or you look at an image like this, where again we can't see the bottom of this boat, and we can't see the bottom of this boat, and we get an inferior mirage, and we are getting blockage, the same as this. It's exactly the same. We're getting blockage. We're getting blockage. But what's the cause? Is it to do with the angle, which we suppose? Is it to do with all the work that, a lot of other flat earthers, as well as myself, has gone to prove that we are seeing much further? And do you believe that this is what's happening, that it's being loomed up? Or do you believe that it's just blockage, like so? And that's the two fundamental differences between the flat Earth and the globe. When you see things that are much further away, for instance, when you saw that lighthouse before, let's pull that video back up again, actually. So
that would be an interesting survey to do, where you would engage people who aren't in the conversation and show them what we're talking about and ask them what they think they're seeing. And I guarantee you that they're not going to assume curvature. They're just going to say, well, it's, you know, if you were to describe what we're talking about with the natural reality of diffraction and everything that happens with light and distance, they would explain the situation as a flat earther would.
Yeah, and let's not forget, in their model, going back to this lighthouse, in their model, you should only see the black part at the top. Everything else that you're seeing should be covered. There should be a wall of water in between you and it, and you shouldn't be able to see this lighthouse. You shouldn't be able to see any of the white part, any of the trees, nothing. It's all not there. So because it's not there, they have to come back with this nonsense of refraction and looming to account for this, which means that essentially all of this is being loomed up. Everything that you see, the trees, the lighthouse, is being loomed up and suspended there for you to see. It's a hologram. And how people can believe this, and what's even more astonishing is just the clarity, just how still this water was on this day. You can actually see that it is like a mill pond. When you look across it, there isn't a single wave.
All right, so go back real quick.
Yep.
Because stop, right there. Stop. Oh, no. Can you go back? Where you have that other land sticking out with the lighthouse land and the contrast. Because that's exactly okay.
There, no, further.
No, the next one. You want to go forward a little bit.
Okay.
Okay, now get ready to stop. Right there, stop.
Looming.
No, I need you to stop like 30 seconds ago.
30 seconds ago?
Yeah. Can you?
Are you watching on the YouTubes?
Oh, what I am. I'm a dope. I'm a dope.
It's all right.
I'm talking to you and watching the screen on my PC, and I'm like, what the hell's his problem?
So where do you want me to stop?
Go back 30 seconds.
Okay, to the
Okay,
water.
Now go ahead, because I didn't know how far back 30 seconds would be.
Okay.
Keep going, keep going. Go back to where he's on the shore. Yeah, keep going.
Like here?
Okay, and stop. Okay, now, this is what I did on one of my videos because I had this kind of land laid out where, so how far away is the land that's right there on the left?
Oh, right, okay. I don't know.
So from where he's standing to that land, it's level.
Yep.
And then as you look past him to the next spot of land, that's level.
Yep, but it's raising up.
And then if you were to have something behind that piece of land that's even farther away, all you're doing is extending the plane. You just have to look at it from that perspective and say every single time you're looking farther into the distance, you're still maintaining level observation.
Yeah, it's like when you look down the hallway, like you say, and you constantly you're looking up.
So, yeah, so like in one of my videos that I put out, the land on your left was 2 miles away. The land in the distance was 6 miles away. And then I panned farther to the right at the Chesapeake Bay where I was, and there was land 9 miles away. So I had 2, 6, and 9 miles. But as you looked at it, if you were to just ask anybody, again, if they weren't predisposed, if they didn't know anything about this conversation, and you said, describe to me what you're seeing, they would describe to you a flat Earth.
I just want to say what's interesting with this footage in when we come across to these buildings is that I've been showing a few clips of these in the past, these buildings here, where we see this compression happen on these floors. And what you can clearly see on this particular day is that we're seeing beneath the floors, we're seeing down to the trees. And whatever's going on, whether it's a Fata Brumosa, Anthony, do you want to tell the audience what a Fata Brumosa is?
She doesn't like being called that.
Anthony, are you there?
Yeah. Well, you can see I'm here. Fata Brumosa. I didn't know if I was on mute or not. It's where the water mirrors on top of it. So it gives you a perception that there is bulge there, but it's not real. It's called Fata Brumosa. It is a thing. Science, you know, that thing that ballers pick and choose what they want. Well, you can't pick and choose science because it's repeatable, observable, testable. Anyway, go on.
So even if, like, say you were on a highway, I think I've taken pictures of this. I was on a real lumpy highway, and you could see a mirage after each lump. Is that what that would be considered then?
On the highways, it's difficult to understand what's really going on. I'm not sure. I don't know. I'm not sure is the honest answer.
Yeah, I've taken pictures where it's real, a highway that goes over a swamp, and it's going up and down and up and down and up and down, and I'm at a long distance away taking pictures, and after every hump, you can see there's a band of miraging taking place.
Yeah, like in Al Kay's video when he's going up and down the hills and he's filming out his car window with his P900. And every time he gets to the top of a crest of a hill, you get this limitation of the angle and you see the mirage of the car or the number plate or the rear tail lights miraging below themselves, disappearing into the limited angle. And it causes that mirage. I mean, I was tempted to put this out 6 months ago. I just wasn't certain. I hadn't seen it enough times to be certain that that mirage is the diffraction limit. That's the effect. That's what you see.
So what was that called again? Sorry, Ranty. What was that called again?
What was what called? A Fata Brumosa.
Brumosa.
B-U-R-M-O-S-A, Brumosa. It's where the water reflects on top of itself, so it gives an artificially high. I mean, that's why sometimes it's not that much, but it's enough for you to see it, because it's often there's like if you were looking over water, there would be a darker line of dark blue or bluey green colored water on top of the water that's there. So this doesn't have it at the moment, but in a lot of footage you see it. And if you get a boat that sits basically just like behind that mirage, it's going to look like it's cut off. But you can often see that it's there. See on that, like on the screen right now, there's that like dark blue line that goes right the way across the screen. That's normally an indicator that there's a Fata Brumosa there, unless it's actually land. Now that may well actually be land there, or it may be a mirage. But the only way you'll ever know is if there's a boat in the background while you're looking at it, and if that boat's cut off and there is a dark blue line, that's going to be a mirage. You see, Tim's pictures of what do you call it? The salt flats has got it in it, and that's what's cutting it off, and he ignores it. He just literally doesn't. He doesn't zoom in enough for you to be able to see it. But Tim shows it all the time, and it's like, yeah, it's a Brumosa, dude.
So again, I just want to ask the chat. I mean, do they think that what they've just seen there with that Red Pill Philosophy video, which essentially all of that should be loomed, are they looking at looming during that, or are they just looking across a very still flat piece of water on that day?
What? You're asking the audience, are they assuming a sphere, assuming that light is bending around 7/6 hour of that sphere, and what they're seeing in that lighthouse isn't really there? It's a slightly looming non-standard refraction hyena hologram of the lighthouse being bent up from behind the presupposed Earth curve. That's what you're asking them to say if they believe that.
I want to know who's on the flat, who's on the ball. Come on, I mean, this is literally, we've gone through it step by step, and we've shown the ludicrousy of the ball model. And then we've just shown an absolutely stunning observation. And I'm asking the audience whether or not they think that is more likely to be the ball model, or we just see it because it's there.
But it's blatantly obvious.
I know it is. But do you realise
because we definitely can see it. It is definitely there, right? There's no two ways about this. So yeah, I believe slightly looming non-standard refraction hyena hologram of the lighthouse being bent around a reification fallacy known as the heliocentric globe model, then you're entitled to believe that shit. However, we do definitely see it. It is definitely there.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see if we can actually see any birds flying in the zone where they say that this looming should be, or where the cutoff should be, because anything beneath the lighthouse that's being loomed up, if we see a bird flying there, they're essentially saying that the bird is being loomed up as well.
Was it Jose? Jose caught an absolutely glorious observation, and it was akin to a Reg Rhetoric observation from about 2.5 years ago, where he had seagulls going in and out of the diffraction limit, into that limited angle and out again. And as they do, they reflect down on themselves. You get an inferior mirage of the bird, and then it comes back up again. Again, why would it be disappearing into a layer that is above the horizon line, what you call the hard horizon, and mirroring below itself, only to come back up again? If that's actually Earth curve, that hard horizon line is actually a solid thing, the edge of the sphere. No, birds don't reflect above a couple of inches above that. That's just nonsense. But that's what you have to believe when you look at that hard horizon and assert that your presupposition of an R value means that's actually a hard edge obscuring the stuff that you still see above it. You know, you still can see the lighthouse, even though that's claimed to be the hard edge of a sphere. Yeah, it's just so ridiculous when we talk about this, don't you think? When we detail what you have to believe to think you're on a sphere.
And I want to know why you can't see the lighthouse that you should see. I never had thought about that. I bet if you go out there at night when there is a lighthouse going off and you can actually see the light, if you were to go out there and they said, well, that has to be looming up, you should still see that light going off that should be visible going through the bottom of the loomed light, right? You would think, or the loomed image.
It's got to get past
actual
and would be curving around said obstruction, right? I mean, the thing that Anthony and I discussed earlier today, Zach, was specifically about perspective in relation to how they detail the obstruction. So you've got this hard edge of an Earth curve that's blocking your view and causing things to disappear bottom up and be cut off at the bottom, coincidentally at the limited angle. Anyway, if that was the case, bearing in mind that they only use the whole numbers, the meters or the feet and inches, that being the case, the obstruction is in the near foreground. So the effect of perspective would be amplified exponentially more on the obstruction itself. So when you do the maths in whole numbers, you end up with, say, with this obstruction, with, let's say it's a, I don't know, 30 or 40 foot hump between you and the lighthouse, right? Well, because it's in the near foreground, it would be massive. The 30 or 40 foot whole number value they attribute to it is meaningless when you consider that it's in the near foreground, right? It would be massive by compared to these little dots in the very far distance. Do you see where I'm driving at?
Mm-hmm.
If you've got a hump in the near foreground and you're begging the question, proof of nothing perspective hijacking model, then ultimately that hump in the near foreground is going to appear bigger than the stuff in the background. So it's going to be a much bigger obstruction than the feet and inches value would suggest because it's closer to you. And perspective rules. It always applies, even though you ignore it from your mathematics globe heads with your reification globe model.
Nathan, slightly different topic. You know that John Smith Globe Lie tour? When did you get to find out about it? Did you only get to find... Well, let me ask you this. Did you get to find out about it when Ranty suggested to me that we should go to London and I asked you and you were a bit flaky and said you might come but then didn't? Or did you know about it before then?
I'd had it come up on my feeds and I had seen bits and bobs of it. I don't know if Adam was the first person to introduce it because he got in the paper while he was out on the tour. It might have been Adam that was the first to mention it to me. I can't remember exactly. Why do you ask?
Because there's somebody in chat that's just been timed out called Have No Sphere. And he basically says, and I'll read what he says just so I don't stuff it up. He says, Constance, no, I'll tell you how it is. You guys promote anyone. Anthony and Nathan tried to claim they knew nothing about John Smith Globe Lie Tour or Roxanne. Bollocks, I've been at this 5 years, son. I didn't know anything about Roxanne. I did see her on Patricia's show once. and I left her a message saying, welcome to the family. Didn't see her again and forgot who she was from then. And the first thing I heard about her was when Ranty said she fancied coming down London. And I was like, yeah, okay, why not? So that was where I first, and that was right at the very end of the trip. I think it was in the last 2 weeks of the trip. Didn't know about her before that. She didn't come up on my radar. She didn't come up on suggested videos. Didn't come up on recommended videos. Didn't know. It was almost as if there was a brick wall between the two of us, and I didn't know about her. And it's bizarre. And there's other ones, John. I didn't know about the Globe Light Tour either. So it's not wrong to say that they just weren't coming up. And I get to see a lot of the videos that go out there because I tend to watch a lot of them. Which neither of them were on my radar for a long time until Ranty brought them up physically, and then all of a sudden I knew who they were.
Yeah, the thing is, we don't get to see every single video that's put out. That's a fact. And to be fair, because we're just in this environment, we're tended to kept separate from one another. So, and that's by YouTube's algorithm. They don't like promoting flat earthers knowing other flat earthers. So it's only through word of mouth. So unless actually somebody says, oh, have you found this person? They're never going to appear in your just recommended feed. Very unlikely. I think I've only ever found one flat earther just off the bat that I've never seen before. Everything else, I've actually stumbled across it. Either it's been a globe earther that's put a hit piece video about them, or you've introduced me.
Yeah.
That's it.
Sorry, I didn't want to. I just wanted to mention that because I saw it in chat and I just thought, no, I'm mentioning that because it's not true what this idiot's telling people. I did not know about this Globe Light Tour until the last 2 weeks of it. Didn't see any videos on it. Didn't know about it. Ranty was the one that brought my attention to it.
Isn't that blatantly obvious? I mean, if that was the case, just presumably because this guy's subscribed, most people have their own little bubble. No offense, have no sphere. This may not apply to you, but I'm just going to say it anyway. People think that what they experience must be what everyone experienced. Well, no, otherwise they wouldn't be growing in subscribers. The people that didn't know them before they subscribed then subscribe and they grow. Well, coincidentally, that was me with Roxanne. So what? Who cares? Does it matter? We're promoting her now because she's good. And we do know about her. We want you to go and subscribe to her. Simple.
Yeah.
Well, ready? Good for you. You got there before us. Like Math Powerland, man, you were first. Good for you.
Well, the thing is, like Nick Havoc, for instance, nobody knew about his channel. Essentially, he had very few subscribers. There's been a few other flat earthers recently that I've promoted, and they're literally just starting off. They've maybe done half a dozen or a dozen videos, and some of them have been going for a year, and it's like they haven't been picked up, and yet they're doing good work. So imagine that if you had somebody, you know, that's showing great flat earth proof, and yet they only have 100 subscribers after a year. There's something wrong there, and that's not to do with flat earthers aren't picking them up. It is to do with that. It's just that we can't find them. We don't get told about them, and unless somebody actively promotes them, they're never going to find them. You know, but I will go out of my way to actually promote people for sure, absolutely. And as soon as Roxanne came on the scene and she talked, well, I saw about what was going on about this Globe Light Tour. First thing I said was, "Yep, Nathan." Anthony, have a look at this. I was going to say chick then. Have a look at this girl. She's doing some good stuff. But we only got to find out right at the end. It was, you know, what, maybe 3 weeks at the end.
Don't worry about it. I'm not going to change my attitude. I like shouting out these people. You know, as I discover these new people, it's great. It's harking back to, you know, when I was trying to emulate what Patricia Steer does. You know, I'm not necessarily doing that anymore, but back in the day, it was nice to shout these people out and then invite them on and talk to them. And, you know, I got to know Roxanne purely because she came on and chatted to us on the debate. If it wasn't for that, I wouldn't know who the hell she was. Now I do. I'm glad and want to promote her. And the same applies to the people we had on the list earlier. Roxanne's one of the many, many people who aren't on that list. Well, that list's unfortunate in that regard because, like I say, the list is endless of great people out there. I know she was on the list, wasn't she? Take it all back. You know, just one of those things that there's so many people making good content. What I have vowed to do, should I ever get back debating with people, hopefully that won't be too far away. If ever, it seems like an eternity already. Anyway, I digress. If it ever comes to that point, it would be nice to actually promote the people we talk about there and then. Like today, we've talked about Red Pill Philosophy. Hopefully, people will go and subscribe to him because we've shouted out how great he is. Same principle applies with Jose JG Soundless Gonzalez. We had his birds flying in and out of the view. Ranty's good enough to actually put his stuff on screen, and he's he's been smart enough to put his tag at the bottom so you can see where the channel is. You can actually type it out letter for letter, because if you don't tend to find them. So sometimes it takes some of the mods, and I don't have any, it's down to me or whoever on the panel to do it, but the mods can put a link. So if it really helps out if you are a mod in someone's channel and you hear them talking specifically about a channel, just do a cursory Google search, YouTube search for that channel. If you find it, find a link, click on share, copy the link, and spam the hell out of it in whoever's channels just mentioned them, so that the people in the audience can there and then go and actually subscribe to them. I mean, I've just told Roxanne in your chat, spam your link, spam a link to one of your videos, because then people can click on it right now and go and subscribe to you. And you'd be amazed how many people, might hear about it. They might see Zach on the panel, for example, not take heed when I say GUDTIMS4ALL and actually type it in. But if I was to actually do as I am suggesting and go and spam his link, then people would actually go and subscribe to him. Should really listen to my own advice and do that right now, but I'm actually talking right now. So I'm hoping the mods will be listening and going and getting a link to Zach and spamming the hell out of his chat, Ranty's chat, so that people can go and subscribe to these excellent YouTube videographers who know a lot more about Flat Earth than I do. I'm good at telling people to go and subscribe to me. Zach, maybe not. But I wouldn't know any of this if it wasn't for Zach. This is literally all down to Zach.
Yeah, well, one of the wrench holders, the Plain Truth, already put one of his videos, and he's trolling for numbers.
Yeah, the Plain Truth needs subscribers for sure. And yeah, I mean, if anybody's in there and they feel like they've got a channel that they want to promote, or there's a video that needs to be seen, have absolutely no doubt that you can actually spam your links in there. If you want to do that, I have no problem with that. If you're a moderator, crack on. And by the way, Iron Realm Media, seriously undersubscribed. They do a show every Friday. They've got
shout out Iron Realm Media.
Iron Realm Media, search it. Somebody spam the link for Iron Realm Media. Maybe Adam Meekins in there, he can do that. But yeah, everybody should go and watch that. It's basically what we're doing now. And yeah, they've got their own radio. Excellent. Go and watch them.
Yeah, I'm actually part of Iron Realm Media. We have a lot of fun over there.
As we are at that point where we're just basically doing shout outs, this has been, I think, Ranty, the best show you've had on your channel to date.
Thanks.
It's been really informative. I think the audience will agree. We've gone over a lot of stuff here, and it's been complex. It's not simple, but I think in discussion you can make it more clear. And I think that's been achieved today. I'm really, really proud to have been a part of this hangout. I'm not just saying that to your ego.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of people that when they hear the word refraction, they don't actually understand what it means. So actually just laying it out in a diagram fashion and talking about it, what it actually means. When we talk about looming, non-standard hyena and refraction and all that kind of stuff, it probably goes over people's heads, and they hear it and they don't really understand it. But to actually see it and see what their model says is actually happening, that buildings are being lifted up beyond the curvature of the earth and like a hologram being presented to you, a bit like Obi-Wan Kenobi in Star Wars, when he was presented on a table.
Yeah, that's actually, I've just spotted something that's really worth a shout out. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I just spotted something.
Fire away, yeah.
Lifting the Lid. Roxanne's put a link in Lifting the Lid's channel right now in chat. Lifting the Lid is a new channel, and not many people will be aware. However, he's the one that's organising the conference in summer. I think it's the second weekend in September in Kidderminster. So if you want to know about what's happening with the conference in the UK, that's the date. It's the second week in September, and Lifting the Lid is the guy organising it. So go and give him a sub as well, so that you're up to date with that, because that's definitely going to get ramped up as we get nearer to September.
So Anthony, tell me more about this. I can see what you're doing, and it's a funny thing, because about 3 or 4 days ago I mentioned to Nathan that I actually wanted to do this exact thing, because I'm moving home in around about, hopefully within the next month. I've got a room all ready that I'm going to be going in and getting it green screened. And this was the exact format that I wanted. And I said, I'll just sit in the corner and I'll have my videos playing in the background.
Yeah, yeah. To be honest, the only reason why it happened is because FE Core asked me to do a particular video of a certain style, and if they hadn't have asked me, I wouldn't have bothered doing it because it's too much effort. I couldn't be bothered, and all they wanted me to do was read a script, and I did it, and it came out all right. But I realised that, hey, I've just done all the prep work for this. I may as well utilise it, and then it just dawned on me that I could just do this myself, and it costs basically nothing because I've already got all the equipment to do it. So it's like literally cost me zero. I just didn't know how to do it, and I couldn't be bothered learning, and now I had to do it because FE Core asked me to do it. So it was like, right, now I know how to do it. It opens up the door now, and I can have like everything that everybody does, because it's the opposite of Nathan. Nathan's a bit no frills, like he likes it not looking like spacey or whatever. I quite like it with all that, all that razzmatazz that looks shit, but I quite like it.
No, I don't think it looks shit because you've made it sound like I'm being down on it, and that's not the case at all. If the application is useful, so for the sake of argument, when you were pointing at the soundly bendy bridge and then you're comparing it to Jose's video, that's really useful. And in applications like that, I'm going to be 100% behind it and say it's excellent use of that technology. But when you sit there with a ticker tape saying Nora's proof of gravity is blah blah, it just looks so corny.
I know, but I like poking the bear.
It just looks crap when you've got a ticker tape or some random picture behind you. If it's not needed, don't use it. If it is needed, like with these, when you're actually pointing at pictures, it's like the weatherman. The weatherman needs to point where the sunshine is, and you need to point where the bend in the bridge isn't. So that's useful. So I'm going to be 100% behind that. But if you're constantly sat with the green screen on just because you can, you're going to get me sighing and tutting a lot.
I know, but I don't mind it because it's the opposite of you. I know you said that I said it I presented it in a negative way or whatever words you use, but I didn't really mean it that way. All I meant it was I saw Vegan Goy doing something similar. I see Hoary Sheet doing something similar, and sometimes it's like really cool, and other times it's naff. But I just like the fact that there's what we really. It's because I don't want to make it look too similar, and I want something to be there at 2 o'clock so that the regular audience that's used to the 2 p.m. slot stay, and that's all it really is. And I just thought I'll do the opposite of what Nathan's doing, so it's not seen as trying to be Nathan.
Well, I hope you maintain use of that technology when doing demonstrations like you did today, because I think it looked glorious with you pointing it out, with you, it's just the humanizing the imagery by having a person in front of it pointing at what you're talking about is great, but just don't, I beg if you don't overuse it.
The other reason why I did that with Soundly's one is because Soundly was actually he is like a thumbnail at the bottom, so it was to overlay him so that he wasn't in it.
I love it.
Nathan, I want you to read something for me. Just bear with me. Have you got me on big? Well, will you be able to see my screen quite large to be able to read this?
I'm an animator. Hi, Ranty. My name is Chickasum Shady. Are we meant to be reading this?
Yes. I want you to read it.
Make it bigger. You zoom in. There we go.
This is an email that I've had.
I'm an animator. I'm actually a Yorkshire lad, so not that far from you, although I'm living in somewhere these days. Thanks a lot for dropping me your email. In addition to my day-to-day client work, I also make short animated films and documentaries. I've long been interested in the Flat Earth research community, and I've spent a lot of time watching your videos, amongst others, and following the heroic tour from the summer. This year, I was hoping to put together a short few-minute animation in the style of things I've done in the past on the subject, and I was wondering if you could help me. The focus of the work is not the Flat Earth itself or any kind of models or experiments, but rather a chronicle of people's professional journeys that they have taken towards Flat Earth, if that makes sense. I'm hoping that if people knew a little bit more about the journey people have taken, they would understand the Flat Earth a bit more. There will be a little less hostility in the world. I know the community is plagued by trolls and hostility, and I am not that. You have my URL here. You can check out my work and see who I am. Would you be open to helping me? All the best. Dodgy person that we don't actually know.
I've checked the URL, I've checked the website, and I can confirm that he is exactly what he says he is.
I wouldn't take that as anything other than a well presented, well thought out, friendly email. I would definitely be responding to that positively.
I know, but hang on. Let's just
wait. Well, again, just calm down. I have this. This was sent to me last week, and we've been back and forth. He's flying over, believe it or not, later on in the year to talk about this. So, if there are any flat Earth people like myself, you know, content creators that want to get involved with this to talk about it. And I specifically noticed it talks about the heroic tour in the summer, so I'm assuming obviously that's to do with the tour that happened around Britain. Hello, Nathan. Would you be interested?
Like I say, if you'd have sent that to me, I'd have responded positively.
Yeah.
But all I would say is remember what happens when the likes of Mark and Patricia get accept an invite from a production company, and they go into it with one perception, but then they end up showing basically like gay porn to destroy the credibility, because it makes them look that bad afterwards that they present it as a friendly thing, but it actually gets like documented on or made into some horrific kind of character bullshit nonsense. So just be careful with these kind of things. They're often too good to be true. Do you know what I mean?
All I can say is that I've seen his work. I've seen where he's displayed his work. I know everything about the person that I'm dealing with.
Yeah, but you don't know what his intentions are.
Well, from his previous work, he doesn't look like that sort of person. He looks like, you know, he's seen an opening here with Flat Earth, and he perhaps wants to be the first person to get in on that, which I'm excited about. So if it brings it to a wider audience and he can make a very short documentary about it, I think it's very positive.
Is there any way to make it so like you have to okay it before he could release it?
Yeah, it's called a contract.
Yeah, I mean, well, if he's flying over and he wants to discuss it face to face, so I'm assuming that Anthony, if you want to come along as well, and Nathan, perhaps we could arrange to meet up somewhere, perhaps. Or maybe he just wants to meet with me, and then we could perhaps meet with Roxanne or whoever.
Do you know what? I was thinking Nathan's miles too far away because he's in Leamington, so Roxanne's got no chance.
Well, we could find a local place, I'm sure.
I'm sure. As we're into sort of discussing this sort of stuff, can we do some shout outs to your chat? People like chat.
Yes.
Do it. Shout out to Secret Asian Man, Paula, Bible Literalist. Good to see you. Flat World Logic. Thanks for being here. John Watson, good to see you. You can all do it as well. It doesn't just have to be me. Bob Klein.
Effie Viking.
Clark.
I just want to say that London's 190 miles away from us, so that puts Roxanne about, how many feet behind the curvature? That puts her about 7,104 meters behind the curve of the Earth from us. That's too much.
Shout out to you, Sammy. Jose Menza, shout out to you.
I have a question. If Roxanne lives 190 miles away, if you drive halfway, so you're halfway over the hump, can you turn the engine off and
roll
drift?
the rest?
Yeah, and roll the rest of it down the other side.
No, because from my perspective at the start, it's always downhill and it's gradually getting worse. So you'd end up doing 100 miles an hour by the end.
Shout out to the newest Mackenzie, Remington James, Adam's little boy. He's so cute. I just wanted to give him a shout out.
Remington.
Craig the Chivalrous. Good to see you. BKK Dave. Thanks for being here. Ute, of course. The legend that is
John Watson.
Yeah, John Watson. MG Pillbox. Poopy Pants.
Poopy Nuts.
Constance Burns.
6th, 7th. Adam Meakin. Good to see you, Adam.
Shout out Refracted. Shout out Refracted to Meakin.
Ian Matheson. Good to have you. Just Jack Flat Earth. Good to be seeing you in our chat. Thank you very much for being here. Amanda Fonda, 69. Hello. So shout out to you, Ranty.
Right, here we go. I'm going to find. I've got Iron Realm Media. I'm going to copy the URL right now. Yeah, right, I have almost 150 people watching. If 150 people all tuned in on Friday to watch Iron Realm Media, they would get the same sort of atmosphere, the same, well, different panelists, but it would open everything up to a whole new world. You'd get to see their insight on stuff. I'm going to spam the link right now. Hit the bell. So subscribe to them, hit the bell, and tune in on Friday evening because you will not be disappointed.
Andre, good to see you. LLB Store, nice to have you here as well. Ian Matheson, woohoo!
I've also just spammed Iron Realm Medias for the same reason.
Yeah, I mean, essentially, we entertain people for an hour, 2 hours, and these guys are putting on a show every Friday night. They've been grafting at it for over 12 months. Over 12 months now, for sure.
We have the real Jeronism in the chat as well, so we'll give him a refracted shout out. He's too far away, too much behind the curve, so we can't give you a direct shout out, I'm afraid. You'll have to have a refracted one.
Shoot, is that the real Jeronism?
It is the real one.
He's definitely going to get modded up.
Yeah, give him a mod.
Chocolate saying, good to see you. Abel R, good to have you in our chat. Bible literalist, I think I've already said shout out to Paula, but another shout out to Paula. She deserves 2. Why not? Good to see you. Arwin, good to see you as well.
Matterson, hello. Oh, and Jeronism, by the way. If anybody's not gone to Jeronism, he needs more subscribers. He definitely needs more people watching.
True statement. Jaren really is struggling, so you should really.
Jaren with the Loom shout out.
Jaren's hurting.
Loom shout out.
Everybody needs shout outs. Everybody needs love, Jaren included. Jaren needs shout out. Shout out, Jaren. There are going to be people who are watching that don't know who Jaren is. So go and subscribe to Jaren immediately if you're not already. Crazy fools. Algato, is that right? Hello, good to have you.
And to be honest, Nathan, Jaren's latest hangout with Ranty in it is probably Ranty's finest hour. I watched that and I watched it live. And I thought, Ranty, if you didn't do that with a script and you didn't do that pre-prepared, that was exceptionally well done, mate. I
agree. I'll echo that sentiment. That was a top presentation, Ranty. I thought it was excellent.
Thank you very much. It got me 300 subscribers. I cannot complain. Seriously, 300 subscribers from Jeren's. Doesn't matter where they come from, but honestly, just being able to present this stuff to a wider audience made me so proud. 2 days, 300 subscribers. Thank you very much, Jeren.
Wow.
Shout out to you, Flat Earth Underground. Paul Keeling, shout out to you as well.
Jaren wants a super loomed shout out, or none at all, he says.
Super looming perspective Enigma Hyena. Flat Earth Genius, shout out to you, my friend. Shatner's Bassoon, A. McKinsey, shout out to you too. Wake Bomb, shout out to you as well. Ryan Cubin.
Deep inside the rabbit hole, we can't not leave Death out.
Is he in chat?
I haven't seen him in chat, but I know I want to shout him out anyway. Come on.
Aisling717, or better known as Cammy, from Cammy and Bob Glowbusters. Shout out to Aisling717.
Yeah, shout out to Uncle Dave deep inside the rabbit hole. He's the uncle that everybody wants.
And shout out to Bob Nodell. I think we'll all agree Bob Nodell was sorely missed from Glowbusters on Sunday. He had technical issues, and I was like, it's not quite the same without Bob on Glowbusters. This isn't right. What's going on?
Yeah, and it was on the wrong channel as well for 40 minutes. I was sat there waiting for it to start. And I'm like, where the fuck is it?
More other people were watching it on Jaren's channel. I love it.
Yeah. I didn't realise that.
Winterburn. Shout out to you, Jennifer. Good to have you in our live chat. Thank you for being here. Pillbox. Matt. Good to have you. Southern Israelite. Good to see you, my friend. Her eyes on level. Thanks for being here.
Master Ben. I'm sure he's done he's definitely a flat earther, isn't he? Absolutely, definitely a flat earther. I'm sure of it.
Yeah, he's not so good on the scientific method, but other than that, he's on the ball. So we'll give him a shout out, but he needs a wrench as well.
I've just wrenched him. And Bling Bling. How come we've not said Bling Bling? Bling Bling, of the ISS. What is it? Bling Bling.
Bling Bling, BSS of the ISS. Shout out to you, Bling Bling. I think we've found out every one of your live chat members. If we've missed anybody, right, Ranty's fault. He's the host.
Oh, no. FE Viking. FE Viking. He's one of my patrons. Thank you very much. I've only got 5, which but the 5 excellent Patreons, and it puts fuel in the car so I can go and do these observations. It keeps me going, and I'm incredibly indebted to each and every single one of you. So FE Viking, a massive thank you, because you've been a Patreon now of mine for 5 months. Thank you very much.
Right, I think we've done enough ass kissing. I'm going to be violently sick if we carry on.
I'm feeling slightly.
One more. Can I say one more?
We've missed.
I'd like to give a shout out to Wide Awake. Does great work.
Wide Awake, yes, I'll agree with that.
Ranty, Chocolate Asian.
Chucky, where's Chucky?
Chocolate Asian's in chat, and we've missed him.
Chocolate Asian.
Chocolate Asian, yeah.
Yeah, that was my. Yeah, when you said it, oh man, I had thought that about a week before. Every time I saw his name pop up, I just kept on thinking chocolate Asian. So I thought I'm going to wait for this moment when I get to introduce him, and I did. It was so funny.
I think it's his Chinese accent that makes you think he's Chinese.
Oh, Just Jack, nice to see you, Just Jack. Right, right. I'm going to round this show out now. We've had a good laugh. We've talked about Looming. We have the panelists. We have the Plain Truth. We have Sleeping Warrior, Nathan Oakley, 1980, and we have Good Tims for All. I don't know why I say it's Good Times for All. It's Good Tims, Nathan. Good Tims for All. Anyway, and obviously you, myself. Thank you everybody for stopping by. We now have.
Before you go,
yes,
there is something to shout out.
Okay.
Roxanne's doing a premiere in about 30 minutes on her channel. So make sure that when this chat finishes and you're looking for somewhere else to go, make sure you go on to Roxanne's because she's putting a premiere on next.
Right, Roxanne, right now. Roxanne, can you get a link up to your channel or to the video that will be playing in 30 minutes? And can you spam it, please? Do it more than once. Do it like 6 times or whatever, just so that people can actually right-click it and open it up there. Right. Thank you very much, guys. I appreciate every one of you. I'm going to end the stream now, and I will see you in the next one.
Woo!